Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at investbyrefi.com. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. You can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epic Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, Birch Gold, Century H2O, and Blue Line Moving. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble, and be sure to patronize our sponsors. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
Snap out of it!
We know where you live.
For Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Holy landfill. This was Biden's reaction to this comedian's joke about Puerto Rico at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally.
Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Trump supporters are garbage?
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden. We like to troll. We like to go the night before one of their primaries. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
He's bound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we going to do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound just like a bandit run.
I don't think they'll have to be used. I think we're going to have a big victory. And I think 250 million people in this country are going to be very happy because we're going to bring the country back. We're a nation in decline, very, very serious decline. And we're going to bring our country back.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we going to do what they say can't be done? We've got
Elon is a great guy. He's one of our geniuses, and we have to protect our geniuses. We have to take care of our geniuses.
Trump had nothing to do with the joke and didn't even know about the joke.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he is. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in. And I can't imagine it's a big deal. I've done more for Puerto Rico than any president, I think, that's ever been president.
Were you offended by the joke?
Personally, Larry, I was not offended by the joke, although I will tell you, I think it was in poor taste. I think we can live in a world where you can be offended by the joke or not take as much offense to the joke, but still come to the realization that this country is in the balance. And we have an election before us with Kamala Harris and her administration, where we've seen record inflation. We've seen the prices of groceries continue to rise. We've seen electricity continue the price of electricity continue to rise. And you contrast that with President Trump, who had record employment numbers, who did not have inflation like we're seeing today, who secured our southern border. And so many Latinos, like many Americans, the millions of Americans that make up this country and the millions of Latinos that make up this country, we know that it's very clear. The record can't be any more clear. And the choice before us can't be any clearer. And it is why you see poll after poll, Donald Trump continue to surge, unlike numbers that we've seen in the past.
Hi, folks. You may be hearing a lot about Yrefy these days. Well, it's true. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return, and they don't care what happens with the stock market or the Fed. And it's true, your interest is compounded daily, you're paid monthly, and there are absolutely no fees. And yes, it's true, there is no attack on your principal if you ever need your money back. When you invest with Yrefy like I do, you are in control. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. You don't have to worry about doom and gloom economic news, and you can have peace of mind that you'll receive your statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrefy.com. That's investyrefy.com. Yrefy, do well by doing good. So, Joe, tell us how you really feel about half the country. The only garbage I see floating out there is Trump supporters. Trump's demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and un-American, said Joe Biden. Remember this? What we're now seeing is either the beginning or the death knell of an extreme MAGA philosophy. It's not just Trump, it's the entire philosophy that underpins the, I'm going to say something, it's like semi-fascism, end of quote. Joe Biden, August 25, 2022. Talk about a double standard. Watch what the late night comics on any given night say about Trump. And remember Sarah Palin? Bill Maher in his stand-up called Palin the C word, as in see you next Tuesday. And on his show, he referred to Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin as, quote, two bimbos, close quote. And he called Palin's son Trig, with special needs, a retard. More on Trump's MSG rally later. Now, I've heard a lot of anti-Trump demented things, but this is on a whole nother level. Donald Trump is going to break up interracial couples, deport the person of color, and redistribute the white person to another white partner? Now, I've heard of a lot of asinine things, but my goodness.
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to, say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there.
What, pray tell, has Whoopi been smoking?
The election is upon us, November 5th. It's just right around the corner. Who are you going to be backing, Ghostface?
Donald Trump. He has a lot that he's cooking up way more better than the Condoleezza lady. And it's a video just released out when they asked her, do she smoke weed? And she said, yeah. And then they said, what songs do you listen to? And she said, Snoop Dogg. Like, come on now. We not falling for that.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac.
Smoke weed every day.
Wow. This longtime local TV anchor in Biloxi, Mississippi has just been fired. Why? Well, he posted this tweet.
This is so unlike me because I'm usually a vote guy. I'd like to see 100% voter turnout, whether it's for your local sheriff or president of the United States. But if your hatred for Donald Trump is so strong, that's kind of a sickness, by the way, but if it's so strong that you're planning to go in that voting booth and vote for Kamala Harris, do you listen to her? Do you know anything about her? Anyway, do yourself, do the country, do the world a favor, and just sit it out. Stay home. Don't vote. This has been a public service announcement.
Welcome to my world.
I'm not surprised. What do you think?
Even when I voted Democrat, and I was very outspoken about my beliefs, not once, not one time, did a conservative or a Republican call me a name. They never made fun of me, and they never even remarked on my skin color. Now that I'm openly conservative and I support Trump, and my beliefs actually align with my Christianity, Democrats and leftists have called me all the names in the book. They've sworn at me, they've cussed me out, they've cut off friendships, childhood friends and family members, people who actually know me. And they've also made fun of me for being a person of color who votes Republican. And they've pointed out my skin color to me. Basically, they treated me the way that they said Republicans and conservatives do. They've done everything they've accused them of doing.
Tell me again, it is racist to mispronounce Kamala's name?
Listen, I don't want to attack Kamala Harris as an individual. Let's look at the policy. Let's have a debate about policy.
Stop.
Okay, good. Good. Kamala.
David, you're a brilliant
how do
man.
I pronounce it?
That's my point exactly. That's my
Well, tell me, buddy.
That's my point exactly. The fact is, her name is Kamala. But if you call a woman, who is
Kamala Harris. Okay, I'm saying
a DEI hire.
Wrong, Bakari.
Wrong.
No,
guys. First of all, let's not talk over each other because nobody cares.
Yeah, Bakari, I'm talking about, and you know me, and shame on you, Bakari, because you know me better than that. So shame on you. I'm saying let's talk about her. Let's talk about her record, which she calls about when she asked for mandatory gun buybacks. Says we're going to have mandatory. When she says I'm going to do away with private insurance. When she says people in Pennsylvania, I'm banning fracking.
Okay.
And my plan for you is to let you transition to get another job. Those are her words. We should focus on those things, not who she is.
Okay, Bakari, I do want to go to you because you're pointing out the mispronouncing the name, which maybe was a slip from David, but is something that Trump and everybody many do.
Really? So mispronouncing her name, calling her Kamala, is racist? Okay.
The hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun. You'll notice they purposefully pronounce her name wrong. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. People like Kamala Harris.
But as Kamala said, Kamala Harris. Kamala and I.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris is Kamala.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
The Kamala Harris was a very good prosecutor.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. I know her. Kamala was first Biden and Kamala. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. And to the Kamala point, they say Kamala. They do it all the time. It is on purpose. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris was talking about this.
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
And as for Kamala being a DEI hire, well, consider this. According to the Daily Signal, Harris got admitted to law school through an adverse experiences program. Though her parents were tenured professors, father tenured econ professor at Stanford, mother a biochemist, and Kamala gets into law school for a program for disadvantaged students? Are you kidding me?
According to the Daily Signal, Kamala Harris was admitted to law school through a program for students with educational disadvantages, economic hardship, or disability. All right, both of her parents were professors, which makes the educational disadvantage and the economic hardship sound implausible. So that leaves disability. I'll give her that.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned about the invasion of privacy that is currently going on by the Biden administration? Biden's DOJ is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation, and that's why I partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like me, believes privacy is your fundamental human right. Freedom Chat has variable end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. I'm such a fan of Freedom Chat, in fact, that I have created my own private channel that you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never-seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, or if you're on Android, join their waitlist. Search for my channel and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own perfectly curated private news feed. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. But let's get to the big news of the week. Trump held a Hitler rally at Madison Square Garden. This is kind of awkward. One man's Nazi rally is another man's group therapy.
In the name of the hardworking Americans who make up our forgotten middle class, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
In 1939, 20,000 Nazi sympathizers staged a rally at Madison Square Garden.
I am a product of that middle class, and when I am president, you will be forgotten no more.
Sigh. MSNBC Hee Haw is actively slandering Donald Trump with blood libel by claiming the Madison Square Garden rally was a Nazi reunion and shared footage of the 1939 Nazi event, despite there being tens of thousands of events held at the gardens since 1939.
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it.
Look, I don't say this lightly because I didn't, in my 60 damn years, I didn't think I'd ever see a candidate for president praising Adolf Hitler's generals or talking about using the military against their enemies. And I mean, it's pretty stunning. And I said, look, I recognize I'm on the top of his list, but don't kid yourself. You're somewhere on that list too if you disagree with these people. That's who they are.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
The Big Orange Circus came to Madison Square Garden last night. The clueless Klux Klan showed up in force for what I think may have been the nuttiest Trump event of all time, and that includes the press conference he had last week to talk about Arnold Palmer's penis. This was supposed to be Trump's closing argument to voters. It felt more like Kamala Harris's closing argument to voters. It was ugly, it was mean, it was hateful, it was racist, anti-Semitic, it was stupid. They really off Puerto Ricans to the point where Bad Bunny had to get involved, and that's when you know you got a problem. Trump made such a mess with Puerto Ricans, they're now throwing paper towels at him. In this event, all the stars of the Third Reich were there.
Well, we were talking earlier about yesterday's Trump rally from hell at Madison Square Garden. So what did you make of it?
Well, I think it was everything that you need to know about Donald Trump in one weird white nationalist Nazi-type rally. And, of course, there's historic parallels to where and when this happened.
Some people who watched that made comparisons between a rally that happened at Madison Square Garden in 1939 with neo-Nazis or Nazis back then. Do you see those comparisons? And can you also expand on what he said and what you said yesterday about Puerto Rico?
Donald Trump this is not new about him, by the way. What he did last night is not a discovery. It is just more of the same and maybe more vivid than usual. Donald Trump spends full time trying to have Americans point their finger at each other. Fans the fuel of hate and division. And that's why people are exhausted with him.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fact?
Yes, I do.
First, there was some light entertainment.
Tired of playing the game. Ain't it
crying shame. I'm so tired.
So Trump was channeling his inner Adolf.
Democracy stunk.
Yo, tampon Tim. Really?
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. In my 60 damn years, I didn't think I'd ever see a candidate for president praising Adolf Hitler's generals. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden, talking about using the military against their enemies. And I mean, it's pretty stunning. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. Don't kid yourself. You're somewhere on that list, too, if you disagree with these people. That's who they are. Don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
And I'm so sorry, what's your name?
My name's Tim, and I'm a knucklehead at times.
Knucklehead McSparzatron.
But I thought George W. Bush was a Nazi.
Your new book, The Age of Fallibility, Consequences of the War on Terror. I want to read to you a quote that sort of startled me, I'm sure a lot of your readers, once they read it. The Bush administration and the Nazi and communist regimes all engaged in the politics of fear. Indeed, the Bush administration has been able to improve on the technique used by the Nazi and communist propaganda machines by drawing on the innovations of the advertising and marketing industries. Now, when a lot of people hear comparisons between President Bush and Nazis and communists, they're going to say, George Soros, you've gone over the top.
You actually picked up the most incendiary part of the book, and I am very careful to draw a clear distinction between the Nazi regime and our open society, because we are a democracy. But there are some similarities in the propaganda methods which I pointed out.
But George Soros, you lived through the Holocaust.
Yes.
You know firsthand what the Nazis were doing. You lived through the Cold War, the worst of the Stalinist era. To make comparisons between the President of the United States and these regimes, a lot of people are going to say, what are you thinking?
Well, that is unfortunate, because I think there are some serious arguments about our open society being endangered by the policies followed by the Bush administration. The war on terror, which does not have an end, changes. It leads to an undue extension of executive powers. It has stifled debate, criticizing the president. This is considered unpatriotic. And as a result, we've been following policies which endanger our position.
A lot of people will agree with you on that. Yes. But where they will starkly disagree is to then bring in the whole Nazi and communist comparison.
You are actually, it's a valid point. And maybe I did go over the line, but I think that on the whole, my assessment is a balanced one. And the fact, frankly, when President Bush said you are either with us or you are with the terrorists, that's when I was reminded. But I should have probably kept it to myself.
Well, at least nobody called Trump the black face of white supremacy.
Good morning, Larry. Thanks for doing this.
Jim, do you mind if I just say a few things before you get started?
Go ahead, sure.
Thank you. I believe that the coverage of my candidacy by the LA Times has been immensely unfair, grossly unfair. To call me the black face of white supremacy is beyond the pale. You also had another writer who all but called me a black David Duke. I find that enormously, enormously offensive.
One eternity later.
But you've never, ever, ever interviewed me for any of my stuff, ever. It is completely unfair. I know you don't like my politics. I don't like high taxes. I don't like high regulation. I want secure borders, all of which you guys are opposed to. You supported, for example, Proposition 16, for crying out loud, to use race again as a factor for college admissions and for hiring and for contracting. And when the voters in 1996, I think it was, voted against that, you guys wanted to restore it. I think it's a racist agenda, a racist bill, and yet you supported that. So calling me the black face of white supremacy, calling me all but a David Duke, that's the premise here. So I hope this doesn't degenerate into a witch hunt. I hope this really is a friendly or a fair interview with the two of you. But I have my suspicions.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you got that. We're able to get that off your chest. And I understand that you're not happy with the LA Times coverage.
Well, are you happy with my being called the blackface of white supremacy, Jim? Is that okay with you?
I'm not really here to comment on our last 30 years of coverage of you or our recent.
No, I'm talking about the last week.
Yeah, I'm not really here to represent. Yeah, you know, that's a column by one of our colleagues, and I'm. What
do you think of me being called the blackface of white supremacy, Jim? I mean,
you know what? I want to do an interview with you about. You mentioned the John Mitchell profile. What John actually was one of my first colleagues at the LA Times. I enjoyed his profile. The only thing I'll say about that and past coverages, we haven't covered radio much at all in the last 20, 25 years.
I'm also an author and a filmmaker and a columnist. I'm more than just radio.
Okay.
And John Mitchell did not call me the blackface of white supremacy.
Okay.
This happened in the last few days. I'm just asking you, what is your opinion about a columnist that you guys have hired calling Larry Elder the blackface of white supremacy?
Well, what I'm really hoping we can do with this time is talk about, you're saying you want us to give you a fair shot, and we want to ask you about some of your history and your past. We're trying to give a full view of you now, and we've talked to a lot of people, including some of your friends like Dennis Prager, Stephen Sachs, Miss Stewart, your colleague, and Miss Stewart is from KBC. So we are talking to people who are, some of your biggest fans in doing this profile. So and what we'd like to do now, we have very limited time, is talk to you about your career in radio and 30 minutes is a short time. So I hope
we're only 9 minutes into the interview. So you're not going to give me an opinion about whether or not you think it is fair or unfair for Larry Elder to be called the blackface of white supremacy.
I'm not going to comment on any of our coverage at the LA Times. I want to start right now afresh with this interview and try to, get some information from you about your career. You just said we aren't paying attention to it, and I'm trying to pay attention to it right now. So can we start?
We can start. Let's party like it's 1999.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 1999.
And she wants to be commander-in-chief.
And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where are we right now?
And this man is still commander-in-chief.
I'm heading to do something that should have been done a long time ago. Make a formal apology to the Indian nation for the way we treated their children for so many years. That's why I'm going. That's why I'm heading west. Thank you. And to the Gila Indian River community, the Gila, nothing wrong with me.
Thing like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him? It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely, but that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
I am running for president of the United States. Joe Biden is not.
Sigh.
Mitch McConnell and Speaker Mike Johnson put out a statement comparing rhetoric that you have been using, comparing it to the man who's accused of an attempted assassination on your opponent, Donald Trump. Do you take their criticism seriously?
Well, listen, we all must speak out against any form of political violence, and I'm very clear about that. No one should be the subject of violence, much less political violence. But the American people deserve to be presented with facts and the truth. And the fact and the truth is that some of the people closest to Donald Trump when he was president generals, including most recently John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, have been very clear about the danger and the threat that Donald Trump poses to America.
What an act of desperation. Question, is it working? I don't think so.
In the last few days, the vice president has started to talk about Donald Trump as a fascist, as someone who's spoken approvingly of Hitler. Raise your hand if you've heard about those comments. Okay. What do folks think? Is that something that's persuasive to you? Is that something that you'll factor into your vote? Linda?
To me, it's horrible that she's saying that about him. If he was saying that about her, everybody would be up in arms. I just don't think that's right.
What other folks think about what the vice president's saying, based on accounts of people who've worked with the President Trump? What do folks think about her making those charges and those characterizations?
She obviously thinks it's going to help her. I don't think it does at all. I don't know why, if it was Kelly who heard the president say that, I'm not saying he did or he didn't. I don't think he'd lie. I think you said that, Mark, on an episode. But I think that he had a responsibility to resign the day that was said, if that's true. I don't think that's the case.
I can't. I think part of the reason why I'm being pushed towards Trump so strongly is that I find that the Democrats and the left just keep going straight to Hitler all of the time with everything. Like it, and if it's not the left pushing Hitler, it's the right pushing Stalin. So it's like we're fighting World War II every single day for every single election. So it's so exhausting. I think it just it pushes me away from their position, and it's so hyperbolic that it makes it impossible to have good discussions, and I think it ruins the discourse.
Does anybody think it's valuable or something you want to hear from the vice president? Anybody? Raise your hand if you think this is something that's important for her to be talking about. Anybody? Okay.
If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the U.S. dollar came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. You see, since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars, and that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the U.S. dollar. So I ask you, if there is less demand for the dollar, what happens to the dollar? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans turn to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. To learn more, visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Again, visit LarryForGold.com. Birch Gold has earned my trust with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and their countless 5-star reviews. Protect your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com today.
Bannon is headed to prison.
Trump advisor Steve Bannon is now serving his
federal
4-month
judge
prison
ordered
sentence
former
for
Trump
contempt of
advisor Steve
Congress.
Bannon to report to prison by July 1st.
I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Well, I think you can see today I am far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison.
You know, we're a big believer in this alternative economy. People are tired. They get to vote every day, not just every couple of years. They get to vote and put their values on the line every day with where they're spending their money.
So, Steve, we've taken the position here at Patriot Mobile that we're not going to sit around and watch why our country circles the drain. We're just not going to. Why would you leave anything to chance right now? I submit that now is not the time for us to be on the fence with our conservatism.
Scott, where can people track you down, and where can they go to Patriot Mobile today?
That's patriotmobile.com/Bannon, or you can call 972-PATRIOT. Make sure you tell them you saw us on Bannon's War Room. Make sure you use the code Bannon.
Remember, you guys have not backed down from anything, and it's a true inspiration. Glenn Story and the great team over there at Patriot Mobile, we are honored to have you as a sponsor, honored to be working with you guys. Look forward to working at least for the next 10 years.
Trump was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and the interview has already surpassed 40 million views on YouTube.
So I always got more publicity than other people, and it wasn't like I was trying. In fact, I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild
Maybe. Maybe
he said a lot of wild and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything. It's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you free, like you get out and you do these huge events and you're just talking and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff, but it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in jail." Like it's great timing. Yeah. But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that. Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. You know, believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at the kind of numbers that these guys make then and now, but we had a commission meeting in the, I think it was 1887. Think of this problem. We were so rich. We had so much money. We didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs, and the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel, you want to be punk rock, you want to like buck the system. You're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro silencing criticism. They're pro censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and they're regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
Joe, they come after their political opponent.
Well,
I got more guys. I always say, you know, I kid, but I'm not kidding. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He'd kill you in 2 seconds if he didn't like you, right? I've been under investigation more than Alphonse Capone, only because it's political opponent stuff. And I've won. I won the big case in Florida. I'm winning the other stuff. You win. But you know what they did? They did something that's only done in third world countries. They came after their political opponent.
Yes.
I could have put crooked Hillary in jail.
Well, not only that, but they're weaponizing it by saying that that's what you're going to do once you get in office.
Isn't it
great? By ignoring what they're doing right now. It's crazy.
I heard it. Somebody was defending me today. They said, no, they say that's what you're doing to him. They're going, he's going to put us in jail. He's going to invest.
That's what you're doing.
That's what you're doing to him.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, will you do that? Will you do that to him, to them, if you win? You know, the presidency has tremendous power. I could have put crooked Hillary
I respected that you didn't.
Now, Rogan did invite Kamala Harris to come on the show, and her campaign came back at him with several demands. So Joe said,
never mind.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I will try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on, trying to get her to express herself just as a. I don't know if these. I don't think these formats are good. I don't think that two people. First of all, I hate the idea of the presidential debates because I hate the idea of a time limitation on complex ideas. Also, you have to break.
I think you have to have the debates, though.
Right, but the way they do the debates, I think, is the wrong way to do it. I think they should have a conversation. I think you and Kamala, you sit across a table with no one in the room but the two of you.
Now, Kamala may have missed her chance to be on Rogan's podcast, but not J.D. Vance.
Well, so and how do you get that close? I mean,
yeah.
do you shoot guns?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a pretty good shot. I served in the Marine Corps for 4 years. An AR-15 from 140 yards away is a
chip
pot shot.
Even without a scope. He didn't have a scope,
yeah,
right?
I don't believe he had a scope.
But even without a scope.
Without a scope. I mean,
yeah.
I've shot an M16 many times, and an AR-15 without a scope. There is no. It is shocking that he's alive.
Yeah.
Right? It really is. I mean, I'm a person of faith, but I think it's a genuine miracle that that guy didn't kill him. But how did he get so close? There's a lot of really big questions.
Well,
that
he
we
was
should be asking.
walking around the area with a rangefinder before the event,
and people were yelling and saying, "This
he's
guy's
on the
got
roof.
a gun.
Yeah.
He's on the roof."
Yeah.
You know, there was that crazy. I think it was a BBC reporter, somebody with an English accent, who did the report on the ground with the guy. You know, he's like got a MAGA hat on and a Bud Light. He's probably not a Bud Light. He's got some beer, and he's talking to this guy who saw crooks get on the roof, and he's yelling at him. It's an amazing clip. He's yelling at him like, "Hey," he's yelling at police officers saying, "Hey, this guy's on the roof. Go and get him." And nobody responded to it. And the whole thing is very fishy to me, and I hope that we win and then get to the bottom of it, because I think somebody clearly screwed up. Because when you first see the video, he grabs his ear and then he goes down, and I'm like, oh my God, they just killed him. And I was so, first I was so, but then I go into like fight or flight mode with my kids. I'm like, all right, kids, we were at a mini golf place in Cincinnati, Ohio. I grab my kids up, throw them in the car, go home and load all my guns, and basically stand like a sentry at our front door.
Oh.
And that was sort of my reaction to it.
When you've lost Michael Rappaport.
Donald Trump, pig Donald Trump, call him whatever you want. I've given you gem after gem for years, but stop with the Hitler. Stop with the Hitler. Do not refer to Hitler and the Holocaust, the actual greatest slaughter and actual genocide of the Jewish people ever, for attention and political gain. Stop it. That Nazi rally that took place in Madison Square Garden in 1939 was just that, an actual true blue Nazi rally. So are you saying that anyone and everyone who shows up at Madison Square Garden for this upcoming Trump rally is a Nazi? That's a Nazi rally? Get the out of here. What kind of rallies are happening on the college campuses in New York City, in Union Square, where they're waving Hamas flags and kissing Yahya Sinwar photos? What kind of rallies are that? Do not mention the Holocaust, Hitler, to score political points when you ignore the greatest slaughter of Jews since the actual Holocaust, which happened on October 7th.
The Constitution of the United States should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again.
My name is Jerry Wartsky. I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the Death Marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump and he would never say this. And Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Why should the Jewish people support President Trump?
Because he's a mensch. I believe that President Trump is definitely going to be good for Israel, because in everything that he's done up to now was in favor. He never double-crossed anyone, and he never showed any weakness. Watching President Trump pray for the hostages at the Ohel and spend time with him so meaningful. He has always stood with the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
And this is big news that won't be covered on ABC, NBC, CBS, especially not on CBS, because they fired the reporter Catherine Herridge because of her reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop story. Here she interviews two IRS whistleblowers who say the government knew right away the Hunter Biden laptop story was authentic, but lied about it. First, remember during the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump?
Look, there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Garbage.
Is Hunter Biden's guilty plea in the federal tax case vindication?
Yeah, I absolutely believe so. I mean, he pled straight up to what was in the indictment.
Just to see the risks that Joe and I took, to buck that bureaucracy, which is the IRS, and to go directly against Department of Justice and directly the White House, it was validation, it was vindication, and I wouldn't have changed anything.
This is the first joint interview with IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler after Hunter Biden pleaded guilty in September to felony and misdemeanor tax charges. This internal IRS email, exclusively shared with our investigative team, shocked the whistleblowers.
When you received this email from your IRS supervisor after Hunter Biden's guilty plea, calling it a great conviction, what was your response?
I honestly couldn't believe that it happened. I literally... First person I called was Gary, and I'm like, can you believe that this was sent?
Those are words that are not supported by the actions of the agency.
Thank you for your commitment to the mission, which culminated in a great conviction. I almost see you rolling your eyes as I read this. Now you're shaking your head.
Yeah. This to me was someone who knows that IRS watchdog right now is looking into the way that they've handled this, and they see the writing on the wall. And this really is an example of just covering their backside. Like a true bureaucracy.
What you're saying is that within the IRS, there is disparate treatment of American taxpayers.
What they call it is sensitive investigations.
But sensitive investigation sounds like code for powerful elite people.
There's a list in the Internal Revenue Manual that says what a sensitive person is, and it's exactly that. Politicians, CEOs of companies, high net worth individuals, and then it requires countless additional approvals to work that investigation.
I wanted to get your reaction to this recent filing by Special Counsel Jack Smith. It's 165 pages, allegations against former President Trump, who's also a presidential candidate. And this was made public just a month before the election.
Compared to what happened in our investigation, there were a lot of overt investigative steps that we were not allowed to take because we had an upcoming election. And it related to the president's son, so not even the candidate. And we weren't allowed to do certain investigative steps.
This filing by Jack Smith in the Trump case would never have happened if the names were swapped and it was Hunter Biden.
Based on what we saw in the Hunter Biden case, that document would have never been released 4 weeks before an election.
So you're talking about a double standard in the Justice Department.
Department of Justice created a precedent as it relates to ongoing investigations and elections in the Hunter Biden case. And if they don't follow that precedence and they do something much more aggressive, then it's clear to me that there's some type of double standard.
4 years ago this month and 3 weeks before the presidential election, Hunter Biden's laptop, a key piece of evidence in the IRS tax case, was wrongly labeled Russian disinformation.
In our investigation, we knew that the laptop was real. DOJ knew that the laptop was real.
FBI knew the laptop was real.
Yes.
Based on the notes of this October 2020 meeting, the FBI and IRS, when did they know the laptop was real?
It was many months before October 2020. We were confirming certain aspects of it, that it was real and legitimate as far back as late 2019.
Why was the Hunter Biden laptop reporting suppressed in October of 2020?
There was various reporting of people saying that it's potentially Russian disinformation. And one of those people is the current Secretary of State. His name was in a lot of the emails that were turned over to the House Ways and Means Committee that were on Hunter Biden's laptop. There's definitely a conflict of interest there.
In October 2020, Antony Blinken was a longtime aide to then-candidate Joe Biden. According to congressional testimony, Blinken set into motion the events that led 51 former intelligence officials to cast doubt on the laptop.
I mean, it was clear that it was a campaign to discredit that information before an election. Ultimately, I guess you can conclude that it was for the purpose of affecting that election.
When you heard dozens of former intelligence officials say the laptop had the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation, you knew that was false.
Yeah, and I mean, as a special agent, as a criminal investigator, and what I know, what I do, I don't know how they could have come to that conclusion regarding this laptop.
It was misinformation to try to make something else look like misinformation.
Do you ever wake up and realize your life has no purpose?
Do I have a death wish? Morgan asked. Maybe I did. I thought this would be our final run ever. We had made millions and millions of dollars, but God had other plans.
Peter Lowe, the one-time drug dealer turned pastor, along with 2 others, will be executed at 12 midnight local time.
You can be in heaven, or you can be in hell. The choice is yours. I found Christ in here, and he forgave me.
My name is Peter Lowe, and I will be executed in 2 hours.
Jesus is for free, and salvation is a gift. Do you believe in Jesus?
Blue Line Moving is a veteran-owned full-service moving company dedicated to serving families across South Florida, as well as nationwide over the past 10 years. Whether it's moving furniture, organizing items, or packing your belongings, we go the extra mile to make sure it's all done right. We provide clients with an affordable and stress-free moving experience every step of the way. BlueLineMovingAndStorage.com. That's BlueLineMovingAndStorage.com. At Century H2O, we believe that everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water. That's why we're dedicated to providing innovative water treatment solutions that remove harmful toxins, balance pH, and enrich water with essential minerals, supporting your overall health and well-being. They are donating 10% of every purchase to provide under-sink water treatment systems to families impacted by the 2023 train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. CenturyH2O.com. That's with an S, S-E-N-T-R-Y, H2O.com. Who doesn't love J.D. Vance?
Ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just
that's
said is
why.
false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care most about?
I'm talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have an issue with whether or not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about the fact that housing has become unaffordable. He talks about the wide open border, Jake. Kamala Harris and her allies, you know, it's interesting. Kamala Harris and her media allies, and I would put CNN in this category. You guys,
they wouldn't.
You guys seem to care.
I'll tell you that. They wouldn't.
Well, they should watch your network more because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people. We're running this campaign on making the American dream.
I'm specifically asking about how Donald Trump is going to be president in the future should he win, and then we're being told
he's going to pursue economic policies that lower the cost of groceries and make life more affordable again. He talks about it every single day on the campaign trail, and so do I. What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy
nothing anonymously sourced,
or who one guy who is a disgruntled employee.
I told you
where five other people pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's got fired by Donald Trump?
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
And for all the people who no longer have friends because of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance has a message for you.
To me, the biggest threat to democracy is the rising tide of censorship. The idea that we should be trying to silence our fellow Americans rather than persuade them and talk to them. That's always going to lead to people being off because they don't like to be told what to think or what to say. They like to talk to one another. And that's one thing that I'll always commit to. As you know, you're vice president for the next 4 years, I'll always try to talk to people. We'll go out there and we'll do events with people who disagree with us. We'll answer questions from people who don't always see eye to eye. But I think if we set the tone at the top, the leadership of this country is all about communicating with one another. I think that's how we start to heal the divide. But we all have a role in it. And one final point I'll say about this, and you know, don't get too personal all the time, but, you know, one of the things I've seen, especially from, you know, some of my wife's friends and some of my friends, is that they disagree with us on politics sometimes. They'll get very personal about it. And if you're discarding a lifelong friendship because somebody votes for the other team, then you've made a terrible, terrible mistake and you should do something different. Like, don't cast aside. Like, most of my family obviously is going to vote for, you know, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and if they're not, actually, I need to talk to them. But I've got friends who like me personally, acquaintances who aren't necessarily going to vote for me. That doesn't make them bad people. And we can't, this is my most important advice, whether you vote for me, whether you vote for Donald Trump, whether you vote for Kamala Harris, don't cast aside family members and lifelong friendships. Politics is not worth it. And I think if we follow that principle, we'll heal the divide in this country.
Hat tip to Black Tea News.
The most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. The policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem, okay?
But the numbers did quadruple.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
I was one of the first senators after President Trump was elected to advocate for a decrease in funding to ICE.
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
Puts ICE in the same category as the KKK.
We have a president of the United States who has created a fiction about a crisis at the border, and he has held up the United States government and its workers around his vanity project called a wall. Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances. I've been very clear about the images that you and I both saw of those law enforcement officials on horses. I was outraged by it.
And you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago.
You chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law.
We must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
All drug possession, that's not just marijuana, which she alluded to in her answer to this question, but it also would mean,
it's federal level, all drug possession.
Fentanyl, crack,
yes.
Cocaine, things like that, yeah.
For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
But people who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
This DA, Kamala Harris, floated a plan to the police department to not prosecute drug dealers until their third arrest.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
They told me I was under arrest for my child missing school. I was shocked. I said, but my baby is sick. The school knows that.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like
And I inhale. I did
inhale.
I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners. That one line, I was like, hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
The Medicare for All bill, I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I do not trust Donald Trump on the issue of a vaccine.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
How dare they tell a woman what she can do and cannot do with her own body?
Would you because veto? Under Roe v. Wade, you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month.
Not true.
And
she didn't decide to investigate the numerous Planned Parenthood mega clinics in her state who were involved in this bloody business of selling baby body parts.
Not every time I do a D, I'm like, oh, there's some law.
You already know.
She decided to investigate me.
First of all, if you are a parent of sons, do think about what this means for the life of your son. Women are being denied care during miscarriages.
It was a complication from an abortion pill that she received. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospital's, what he claims is malpractice.
Going to start monitoring pregnancies.
Project 2025's 900-page policy document is online. You can read it. I've read it. Nothing in it proposes to make anyone register their pregnancy with the government.
Let's remember Charlottesville. There were fine people on each side.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop. You also worked with them to oppose busing.
So you don't mean it?
It was a debate. Are you his daughter? The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts.
How are you feeling about the switch? I mean, the switch. Now we went through a very open process, and a very inclusive.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Contrary to what my opponent is suggesting, I will never tell you what kind of car you have to drive.
But the real core problem is it expresses a level of economic illiteracy which is kind of surprising in a responsible Democratic candidate.
The most significant climate change law ever. And by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called the, we should have named it what it was.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory. Instead of saying, no, we can't, let's say, yes, we can. That any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps.
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
Vice President Harris, I ask you, why won't you return a call and explain to us how you call my daughter-in-law's death a success?
I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Yikes! You can't send a highly educated black person down off in the ghetto to go talk to a bunch of uneducated black people. They go run his out of there.
Right.
And he's talking proper, using proper English with a suit on. You gotta send a to go talk to. Say, you dumb mother, listen up. Who you calling dumb? You dumb mother. Your kids. So and you show them where they dumb.
Yeah.
And argue with them. But, so that's what I'm trying to show. I'm the that can talk to, and I'm that can talk to black folk. And I can gather them together.
Yeah.
And they go listen.
Republicans need that because right now the Democrats have all the black people voters, right?
Now Trump got them right now.
Oh,
The worst thing they did was making Trump a convicted felon. Because now our old blacks resonate with him.
Yo.
Listen, psychologically, they don't even know they do. But now, psychologically, they gravitate because now they can connect. Now they can relate. When we watched that debate, my 20-year-old son watched the whole debate. We've already been desensitized, or we've already been groomed to embrace Trump through the rap lyrics. Bill Gates, Donald Trump, let me in now. Man, Trump's been in over 300 rap songs.
Wow.
I'll say something. Boy, I got money like Donald Trump. Yeah, right. Yo, Ice, I did a concert in the White House, and after that, me and Donald Trump hung out. Right. And then I knocked vanity boots in a limo.
Dimes and 20 and 60-cent bumps. Rugged, rolling hard, stacking paper like Trump. And I ain't give a up just to get a bump. Forget Black Caesar, brothers call me Black Trump. Pistol grip. Trump change, Trump change, not Trump change, rather not Trump change, Trump change. I'm talking Donald Trump change, I'm talking Steve Wynn, I'm talking, Trump change.
From Nelly, Jeezy, 2 Chainz, man, you name it.
Mac Miller.
Man, you name it. Bun B. So some of the most prolific rappers have rapped about using Trump's name. So we're already kind of groomed to embrace him. And he a convict now. That's my I was born in 1977, May 17, 1977. As far back as I can remember in the 80s, I've seen Trump with pictures with Rosa Parks, Michael Jackson, Russell Simmons, Tupac, Mike Tyson, 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg. I can go on a list. Now, how quickly have we forgotten that he once had a show that was called The Apprentice? One of the best shows we watched on television.
Amazing show.
He had Omarosa. He had Little John. He had every we love on there. He had them as project managers. He didn't fire all the blacks first. He had Claudia Jordan on there. So, and his Apprentice show ran for quite some time.
Over 10 seasons.
We never heard him be called a racist then.
Ever.
Not once. It wasn't until he decided to run for president that all of a sudden he's a racist.
Speaking of Kamala Harris's rallies.
H-Town.
One minute later.
So let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a big, loud Texas welcome to the next President of the United States, Vice President Kamala Harris.
After that, Kamala walks out, right? She gives him the hug, and everybody's so mad because they're like, what? Beyonce only spoke for 3 minutes? I thought we were going to get a free concert. Wait, what? What's going on? Wait, why is she hugging Kamala? I thought this was a concert. Oh, and then Kelly and Beyonce have a nice little moment, reminiscing. And then everybody realizes it was a bait and switch, and they walk their butts out. They duped us. They duped the entire city of Houston, Texas, 30,000 off people right before an election less than 2 weeks away.
For the first time ever anywhere, the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald.
Tap on the shoulder. You adjust the microphone as you talk, man.
For their gracious aid.
I am so sorry to my world. I am so sorry to my world. This is not what we want.
As soon as she got on stage and read what she needed to read from the teleprompter and left the stage, 90% of the building left. I mean, when will they learn? This happens at every rally. They pack it with these celebs. People come in and treat it like a free concert. They're not staying to listen to the policy she's not going to tell us about. Like, this is so epic. Literally, there are people uploading footage, and like there was, by the time Madam VP got on that stage, she was talking to herself. She was talking to herself and probably the cleaning people or the people who like pick up the extra chairs. Like, you can't make this up. Yeah, they literally treated that rally like a free concert. And once the performance, because that's what it was over and Beyonce finished reading what she was going to read, the building emptied out.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. What do the elites on the mean streets of Hollywood say?
Hey, Willie Nelson here, reporting from beautiful Hollywood, California, where the stars shine bright, but the streets tell a different story. With celebrity endorsements playing a big role in this election, I'm asking the stars if they're still buying into the Hollywood elite or ready to back someone who makes sense. Are they Team Kamala or Team Trump? Let's find out.
For the sake of this world, democracy, go Trump. If Kamala wins, I think we're doomed. You know, we might end up like China. China.
Oh, I'm Harris.
Okay, lovely. And why is that?
Her abortion laws, I disagree with.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump as well.
What policy in particular do you guys like about Donald Trump?
I think just putting America first. You never wonder what team he's on. You know, he's pulling for the United States, and I just like the way that he says get America working again.
Well, I like money. And you know who the money candidate is? Donald Trump, American hero.
Vote for Trump!
Trump. I find it quite amusing. Who's got your vote, my friend?
Kamala Harris and Tim Walsh.
Okay, great. And why is that?
First female black president of the United States of America.
Trump's all right, man.
What do you think about Kamala?
I don't know, man. But being the first black is not going to be all big. Nothing big about it. It's just America.
So you don't think it's a big deal if the first woman president is a black woman?
No, it's not a big deal.
Trump, the way that they was doing it, the way that we gonna pursue it. Hip-hop, rap, and R&B, I got it on lock. Never will I fall. Now you know for sure I rip the block.
Donald Trump, because when Donald Trump gets in office, we all gonna get paid. I don't like Kamala Harris. It's because she's not her own race that she claimed to be. It's because she's trying to fit into a community where she's not even welcome. Damn! You know, she said she was black, but come to find out, her dad is from Jamaica and she's Indian. That don't mix.
Which one is she?
I don't know. She might be Indian. And she's out in the streets doing things that the culture is doing and she's not familiar with.
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets.
Donald Trump actually going to the churches. He's talking to the people. He putting smiles on people's face. And he's the only president that survived the assassination. I love him for that.
I have to say Trump. And he's funny. He has good memes. Yeah.
Definitely I'll be voting for Kamala Harris. Hopefully we will get a chance to see the new president critique the works of America.
Lovely. And why has she got your support?
I think having a first woman president would be a great opportunity for us Americans.
People tend to want to look at me nervously. They want to murder me. They want to put me on a TV screen. Never murder scene.
Kamala Harris for sure.
Is there anything in particular you like about her policies? Anything that stands out?
Abortion and just trying to take over. I feel like Trump's trying to take over women's bodies, and I don't think it's right.
I'm the Trump man because he's a God-fearing dude. What I like about him, he's sold at the border so people can come here, can be legal, and get the migrants out so they can come out the right way and stay here and live here.
Do you think after Trump successfully makes America great again, he would be willing to make Bikini Bottom great once again?
Oh, yes, he'll clean up the ocean, for sure. No spill, no dirty, no nothing. Oh, yeah, I can have all the Krabby Patties I want, too. Ah, woo!
Now we know how the elite on the Hollywood Walk of Fame are going to be voting. I'm Willie Nelson, man on the street.
Make America great again, baby!
Women running the country.
Finally, now some people are dog people and some people are cat people. Who are we to judge?
You do currently have a California driver's license. You just don't have a physical copy on you at the moment.
That's my preferred method of identification.
And this is?
It's a cat collar. I'm currently identifying as a cat.
Fair enough. The information here on the tag, I'm assuming belongs to you, the boyfriend?
Yeah. That's so rude. I hope you know I'm recording.
Well, it wasn't my intention to offend you, but he just identified as a cat, and you're wearing a Harriet's Waltz t-shirt, so forgive me if I came to a conclusion that you guys are involved in some sort of a homosexual arrangement.
I'm not mad that you think we're together, but you're using gendered language. Besides, I'm not his boyfriend, I'm his owner.
Okay. Well, look, we can do this the hard way if you'd like. I can have this car towed, because last I checked, a cat is not licensed to operate a motor vehicle in the state of California. We can have animal control come get you, take you to a shelter where your owner can retrieve you for a fee of $70 after you're given the necessary immunizations, which do include a rabies shot, possibly even spayed or neuter, whichever you prefer or identify with. Is that what you guys want to do here? What should we do?
I don't know. I don't have $70.
Sir, I can also request that a mental health care professional come down here on scene and do an evaluation of you because you're considering letting him take a rabies shot rather than just give me an ID, use some manners so I can give you your ticket and move along.
He's got hops. Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at InvestYRefy.com. Invest in America like I do. And by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. You can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epic Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, Birch Gold, Century H2O, and Blue Line Moving. And make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And remember, we've got a country to save.
Back me up, go all in, by Joe Biden. I gotta win, save the country from sin. I won't never slack up, get your money back up. Try and cuss my voter and you're bound to get smacked up. Get up, stand up, throw your MAGA hats up. If you got the feeling, Kamala's unappealing. Trump's got the hot flow, Dems are talking junk though. I got shot in my ear, certify me as the GOAT, yo. Working, chat to, peeps in the car, saw me serve more fries than lies from the voters are. DJ T, sure enough in the lead. And if great's what you want, I'm the prezi you need. Kamala's a clown, so get out and vote, keep jump around, keep jump around, jumps up, Kamala's going down. I'm the cream of the crop, I rise when I'm shot.